I want to play this video that's been going viral. This is I don't know if it's an AI video or not, but it's based off of a CCP professor, people are calling him. I don't know if that's accurate, but a Chinese professor who refers to this as game theory, game theory number 18. Speculation as to what Trump's plan really is. And I find it interesting, so let's listen.
Okay, so what if Trump is not an idiot? What if losing the war in Iran is exactly the plan? Let me show you something the media will never tell you. So everyone is saying Trump is destroying America. He is fighting an unwinnable war in Iran. He is threatening to invade with ground troops. He is pissing off NATO by threatening Greenland. He is picking fights with Canada, Mexico, Denmark, Colombia. JP Morgan says the world will run out of oil by mid-April. The global economy is about to collapse. Trump looks like the worst president in history, a complete buffoon, right? But what if that's the whole point? What if Trump wants to lose the war in Iran? What if he wants the American empire to collapse? What if he wants to destroy the global economy? Then he would be a genius. Let me explain. Right now the world gets 20% of its oil from the Middle East. Japan gets around 75% from the Middle East. India gets around 60%. China gets around 50%. Europe is also heavily dependent. But here's the thing, oil is not rare. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. Canada has massive reserves. United States has massive reserves. Trump just took over Venezuela in January. He's threatening to take over Canada. You see where this is going. If Trump closes the Strait of Hormuz by fighting Iran, the Middle East oil stops flowing, but North America is still pumping. Suddenly Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, they all would need American oil. And not just oil, fertilizer too. The nitrogen for food production also comes from the Middle East. If that's cut off, where do they turn? There are only two options, North America and Russia. Trump is making the entire world dependent on the resources he controls. Now here is the genius part. Who owns the most US debt? Who's financing America's $39 trillion? It's Japan, China, Taiwan, South Korea, UK, France, Belgium, and Luxembourg, the same countries that need Middle East oil. There's been this fear that these countries would stop buying US Treasury bonds, that they would move to gold or Swiss francs, that America's Ponzi scheme would collapse. But now they need American energy. They need American resources. They can't abandon the dollar. They are trapped. Trump just turned America's biggest weakness, its debt, into its greatest weapon. By starting an unwinnable war in Iran, he's forcing the entire world to depend on North America. This isn't new. Putin already proved that this strategy works in Ukraine. Russia has been fighting for 5 years. It's a slow grind, but it has restructured Russia's entire economy around war production, drones, ammunitions, and military manufacturing. Russia went from importing Iranian drones to making their own and now exporting them to Iran. Putin's plan was that the world is collapsing anyway, so why not build a fortress, make Russia self-sufficient, control the resources, and weather the storm? America saw this and said, we can do the same. Greenland for rare earth minerals, Canada for oil and resources, Venezuela for oil reserves, Mexico for manufacturing, Panama Canal for trade control. So maybe Trump is not being reckless. He is actually building a self-sufficient North American fortress while the rest of the world burns. So yes, Trump looks like an idiot. Yes, he's losing the war in Iran. Yes, he's destroying the global economy. But if the goal was to end the American empire and rebuild it for Americans, to make the world dependent on US resources while everyone else collapses, then Trump might go down as the greatest American president in history. Maybe the New World Order is dead, and maybe we are heading towards a Trump world order.
Well, what I will say to all of that is the one thing is true, because we have discussed it.
Feels like
the Strait of Hormuz was not closed before the war started. It is closed now. That doesn't hurt the United States as directly as it does China, Japan, and some of the neighboring countries. The United States produces its own oil. We've got fracking and natural gas. One of the things that Trump heavily focused on when he took over from Biden, because Biden was trying to shut it down. I don't know that I believe that full theory, but I will say it makes a lot more sense than Trump started a war because Israel made him do it, and now he's floundering. I don't believe that people are willing to move massive assets without thinking it through. It could be Israel made us go to war and we lost. That certainly is possible. However, shutting the Strait of Hormuz by forcing Iran to fight doesn't screw us over as much as it screws over our adversaries, including Iran, including China. And the funny thing is, he took Venezuela before going into Iran. And everybody believes this because he wants to control their oil, knowing once the Strait of Hormuz is closed, we will need access to a large crude oil supply, and Venezuela is the biggest.
Well, I think the truth could be somewhere in the middle, and it's not that Israel made the United States go to war, but what do you think about the idea that they just gave us bad intelligence? There was that meeting recently with Vance and Rubio. Or I think Vance was out.
I think that's cope. The idea that the Five Eyes spy club doesn't have intel in the region and that Israel just tricks them. We have complained about the NSA and the Five Eyes spying apparatus for over a decade. So we know the capabilities, the spying capabilities. I mean, we just found out the CIA can hear a heartbeat from like 100 miles away or some ridiculous number?
Very far.
They've got this crazy big thing that can hear a heartbeat and they can track you down. We just learned they have a discombobulator array that they
that's crazy.
Shocked at. The
Like
discombobulator
the
array?
energy weapons and frequency weapons and all that a year ago was like only for sketches.
I hear these liberals say that Donald Trump is a moron, he's an idiot, he bankrupted 5 companies or whatever. And I'm like, the guy's not stupid. That's cope. When they're like, Trump's a moron and Elon Musk is a moron. I'm like, bro, you guys are coping hard. Now, I will say this, it's entirely possible. Trump's a bumbling buffoon. Israel tricked Trump with bad intel. We went to a war we can't win. Israel is simultaneously losing the war alongside of us, I guess. So they got us into a war with themselves that they can't win either. That's all possible. When I look at the machinations of global elites, I don't think that they're not first order thinkers. Like when you play a game of chess, you're not just thinking about the move you're going to make. You know what? I'm a chess player, but I'm nowhere near as good as anybody. I'll speak in terms of poker. And this is something that shocks most poker players. When I look down at my cards, I am not thinking about what I am doing right now. I'm thinking about the position the other people are in. If I do this, what will the next move be by the people around me? After that, depending on what the next card is, the range of cards that'll come out, what will the next move I make be? So to put it simply, as something as simple as a game of cards, I have 10 plans, 10 contingencies in my mind before I make a single move on the board. The idea that Trump, Israel, the Five Eyes spy club, whoever else, did not at least plan 5 steps in advance is cope. So the people who are like, oh, he got tricked and Israel made him do it. Well, Israel did pressure us. Rubio said that. But I do not believe for a second, knowing that they went in and got Maduro out in 45 minutes, that this was all just random chance. No, Trump took out Maduro, got their oil, surrounded Cuba, said no one can touch them, strangling them out. Then the war with Iran starts. They planned this. I don't know what their plan is, but they planned this.
Well, the only thing, though, is Venezuela is very different than Iran. And then also, I would be more willing to be
What does that mean?
It means it's not, they don't have the same capabilities of defending, they don't have the same capabilities of defending themselves.
But what does that have to do with what I was saying?
That if he's like a 4D chess thing and he can just do what he wants, like...
Taking out Maduro was because if you start a war with Iran, they will close the Strait of Hormuz, and that's 20% of the world's LNG and crude. By taking Venezuela, we secured the densest crude production in the world. So
yeah, I'm not making a value judgment on if it was good or bad to do. I'm just saying
I'm saying their defensive capabilities are immaterial. We took their oil in advance. There is no way you can separate these two actions. It was obvious that Donald Trump took Maduro out because he needed their oil
Agreed.
Right. So these moves are lined up. You don't got to call it 4D chess. It's just regular old chess.
Right. I guess I would just be more willing to be like, he knows exactly what he's doing and he's thinking in second and third order. If there weren't other political miscalculations he's made as of late that have been pretty disastrous for him, like the Epstein stuff, like there was no way that was just him completely messing up.
What's the fallout on the Epstein stuff? Like
his base is like permanently fractured, mostly due to that. It started with, maybe not mostly because that, but it started with that.
I think the Epstein stuff was certainly bad and it got a lot of libertarians to sour on him. But I also wonder if at the same time Trump is making moves, his adversaries are making moves against him too. So the Epstein stuff, one could simply argue, yeah, Trump has plans. His enemies have plans too.
I also think like Trump's approval rating didn't even really move after the Epstein stuff.
That's true too.
I mean, like it's like
his approval rating is better than Obama's and Bush's at the same time in their presidency.
Yeah, because I mean, like it is true that you need the online right does punch above its weight as far as like influence in the White House, influence and GOP politics, obviously. But like, I don't think the Epstein stuff really like moved the needle that much as far as like Trump's like outcomes. Iran does because like Iran. I don't think there's, and you know me, I'm like one of the biggest Trump shows working in the business today, I would say. But the Iran war is just a miscalculation. I think that the Israelis and the Americans both literally thought there's protests happening right now. They're going to overthrow the regime if we jump in now. So let's just create a vacuum and then it'll naturally happen. And it did not happen.
No way. No way they believe that. No way. No.
Well,
They literally, Trump literally
said in the post, though. I remember.
Yeah, and Trump literally said if you start touching protesters, we're going to go in.
Indeed. And check out Tales from an Economic Hitman, where this guy explains how what the U.S. does, and has always done, is foment protests in foreign countries, film them so they look very dense, and then tell the world, look at the people crying for freedom. That way, when they go in, they cite humanitarian crises as a justification for invasion. I do not believe for 2 seconds that the U.S. government genuinely believed the Iranian people would rise up against the IRGC. There are protesters. That's all real. They killed protesters. There's videos of this stuff going down. But this is just in line with what the U.S. has always done. We will be greeted as liberators. I'm not falling for that same line again. We saw that in Iraq. No, they need to justify their actions to the American people. And there are many Americans who will say right now, we had to go in because they were massacring their own people.
Right. What I'm contending is I'm saying that I think the primary objective for the United States and Israel both was regime change from the outset.
Indeed.
So that's what I'm saying.
I think neither of them believed that the protests would do anything.
I don't think that was like the primary moving factor. I'm just saying that was a moment where they're like, there's blood in the water. Now can be the time to move.
Agreed. And they moved on.
My point.
They moved on Venezuela to secure the oil.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the poker analogy. Just put it like this: if I look down at 2 cards, I think about where I am on the table. So who's going to come after me? If I put in some chips, what are the likely responses? It's not a single plan. I have, again, 10 contingencies. If I do this and he does that, I do this. If I do this, but he does something else, I'll do that instead. And that's what I think is going on. There is a plan here in place. They know what they're doing, and you're watching one step at a time. I don't know what that plan is. I'm not saying that this game theory number 18 is true and correct. I will say, however, when you take a look at the seizure of Venezuela, taking back our oil assets, followed by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, that is a nuclear bomb going off for the Chinese. They rely on that energy. We don't. So it's not bad for us. Trump can, if you want to make the argument, it's on purpose. It may not be that Trump wants to lose, but that he knows the economic damage to China because of the closure of the Strait may be bad for a lot of us, but it's worse for them than anybody else. So you can take a look at, you can look at it like you may get knocked down 10 points. I may get knocked down 5 points, but you'll be knocked down 10. So I win.
So he's doing that knowing that not just his base, but Americans in general will have a hard time wanting this to happen because it is affecting them at the gas pumps right now, even if it's affecting China more.
Right. The idea is that the situation in China is worse than the United States, and the cost for the Chinese Communist Party is going to be tenfold what it is for the U.S.
Well, not only that. Like I think it's next month or in June, Trump is going to meet with Xi again, and they're going to be talking about trade and stuff. And I've said this a couple of times. The last time the U.S. met with China came out and said, "You are not negotiating from a position of strength."
Yep.
He said it right to Anthony.
That was years ago. That was with Blinken.
Yeah, it was with Blinken. But now, when Trump goes into this situation or goes into this negotiation, it's going to be a totally different animal.
I am not going to say that Donald Trump is the smartest man alive, but he's certainly smart enough to be more powerful and wealthier than most people on the planet. So when these liberals come out and they say Trump is dumb, he's an idiot, I'm like, you okay? But he's smarter than you.
But I do think like if the goal was purely like a pincer movement on China, then they would have wrapped up this Russia war by now. They would have put a lot of pressure and just got a deal done and then lifted sanctions, because right now
let me address that point. Except that Donald Trump has been negotiating with Vladimir Putin to bring him back into the fold.
Oh, I know he has to, because the only way to like truly like cripple China's energy supply is if you can get the sanctions lifted on Russia, because right now China's getting Russian oil at like a total discount. I mean, like 50% discount.
And Trump's been negotiating with Putin.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if we see that, if that deal actually like happens, then yes, this is a successful pincer movement on China, because their second biggest import is the Saudis. That's not going to change, but the third biggest is Iran.
It's not a pincer on China. It's just collateral damage. Trump starts a war with Iran. Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, and Trump sitting back being like, "That's what I wanted them to do."
Yeah,
Trump-induced action,
and it benefits us. Again, the Strait of Hormuz closing, it does it does hurt the global economy, but it does benefit us in the sense because now South Korea is importing American oil like in massive numbers, so are the Japanese. It's just the question is China going to continue to get Russian oil basically on sale? I mean, because they have pipelines. They have pipelines connecting Russian oil refineries to China.
There's not really anything the U.S. can do about that either. You know, they share a massive border and stuff. You're going to have shipments of Russian oil into China and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how far Trump is willing to go with negotiations with Putin. But part of me thinks that this is also the situation with NATO. I think Trump is actually trying to use that to put some pressure on NATO too. The whole, get into the strait and help out here. NATO's been essentially the United States taking care of all of the global trade and on the seas and stuff.
Maybe the play is to get out of NATO and team up with Russia.
I mean, I don't know that I want to team up with Russia, but I think if the U.S. gets out of,
I don't know that I want to get out of NATO. I mean, the point is there a possible move Trump is making where NATO's not paying their bills? He can cut off oil to China if he teams up with Russia, and Europe's an afterthought.
I mean, it could be, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think if you like totally bail on NATO, your allies you're left over with aren't more favorable. You're basically just dealing with the Middle East, dealing with the Saudis, dealing with the Israelis.
No, I think that if you bail on NATO, you could still do a deal with like Eastern Europe, like Poland and stuff, because those are the ones that are doing. Excuse me. Those are the countries that are doing their job in NATO.
But they're pretty useless geopolitically because you want the Brits for their bases. You want the French because they do actually have quite a capable military. The Brits and the French have nuclear weapons. Those are like, again, I mean, I know we clown on the right broadly, we like clown on Western Europe, but they're still like somewhat viable allies. I mean, we need Diego Garcia to operate in Iran, and the fact that the Brits are not playing ball with us is extremely frustrating.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.